discussing organic chemical technology course. Already we have discussed module 1 and module 2. Today I will be discussing module 3, that will contain about the pulp and paper, and that will have the 4 lectures. One on the introductory part, second will be on the pulping and bleaching, third will be on the recovery of chemicals, and fourth will be on the paper making. So, we will be asking one question. You may ask that why the 4 lecture on pulp and paper, because you see the pulp and paper, that is one of the very important commodity that we are using in our daily life. And if I say the life starts with the paper and ends with the paper, you see the why I am telling the life starts with the paper. You see the just I will show the this is a horoscope. That is, when a child is born, your horoscope that is written, and even the nutrition, the doctor's prescription, tissue paper, all those things, that is the beginning of the life that we are starting, and end of the life also we are using in some or other form the paper. So, the lecture 1, the coverage of the lecture 1, that will be introduction to pulp and paper industry, raw material for paper industry, and technological development that has taken in pulp and paper industry. This is about the in more detail introduction to pulp and paper industry, profile of pulp and paper industry, technological turning point in the Indian paper industry, advances in the pulp and paper industry, major challenges and shortcomings, secondary fiber in making of the paper, because you see the secondary fiber that has become very, secondary fiber is the waste paper, major developments in the various areas of the pulp and paper industry, and the cleaner technology in the paper industry. Let us go in the history of the paper making. The history of the paper making goes back to over 2000 years, and when first official report on the manufacture of paper was reported in China in 105 AD. Now, you are seeing all the old manuscripts are available on the paper, and so this is only because of the development in the handmade paper that was there earlier, and the China was the many of the development you are saying that started with China and India. The knowledge of the paper manufacturing spread westward along with the silk and the trade routes, reaching India is around 605 AD. Pulp and paper production has increased globally and will continue to increase in the near future, and is one of the largest manufacturing sector in the world, because you see the earlier people were expecting with the coming of the electronic media, use of the paper that will decline, but it is not happening, because the use of the paper in some or other form that has increased. Although the writing paper that may be less quantity, but other type of the paper which we are using, that has increased. There are about 6.5 billion people living in planet Earth. Worldwide paper consumption in this century has increased 4 times faster than population. Paper and paperboard worldwide will reach 640 million tons in 2020, with world production of 8,000, world population of 8,000 million, it means 8 billion people, and per capita consumption of paper and board, that is going to be 80 kgs. Although the per capita consumption in India that is less, it is around 8 to 9 kg today, but even the per capita consumption that is going to increase, and the per capita consumption that is always a very confusing part, because our population is more and many of the developing country population is more. Wherever the population, that the per capita consumption definitely that will be less. There are about 500 kraft mills and many thousands of other types of pulp and paper mills, because we are using the agro-based raw material, we are using the waste paper. Number of the plant that has come in China also, which is where they are using the agro-based raw material, waste paper that has come in a big way, because the huge amount of the waste paper that is generated in the form of the packaging material, in the form of the newsprint, in the form of the office waste. So, all those waste paper, they are playing very important role in meeting the raw material requirement and the sustainable development of pulp and paper industry. So, for Indian paper industry is concerned, the Indian paper industry is among the top 15 global players today, with an output of more than 6 million tons annually, with an estimated turnover of 1 lakh 50,000 millions, that is the 150,000 millions, projected demand of 30 million tons by 2020. The growth of the rate of the pulp and paper industry is 7 to 8%. That is because we are going to use that with the increasing population, more and more requirement of the paper will be there. There are about 500, already I have discussed this point, that about the status of the paper industry. And Indian paper industry, we are having the small and medium based on the agro based, which accounts for nearly 31% of the Indian paper production. With depleting forest raw material, agriculture residues like bagasse, wheat star, rice star, jute, grass, etc. are likely to play important role in meeting the future demand of the raw material for paper industry. You see, in case of the go to the Haryana, Punjab and other part of the country, western UP, we are finding large number of the paper mill which are based on either their agro based raw material. It may be the bagasse also, because we are a sugar producing country. So, bagasse based paper mill or the wheat star based paper mills are there. And the another important development that has been the utilization of the waste paper, that is even we are getting the imported waste paper, use amount of the imported waste paper we are using in the Indian paper industry. Various grade of the paper, you see we are producing a large quality of the paper, that may be writing paper, Xerox copier paper, and you see the map litho paper, newsprint, Bible paper, book paper, laser paper, cream hoop, magazine paper, art paper. These are all the paper that we are using in some or other form in your daily life. Even the bond paper, what you call executive bond paper, it may be the Xerox paper, Xeroxing that has come, use of the paper in the Xerox machine that has come in a big way in the utilization of the paper and increasing the per capita consumption of the paper. Another specialty papers we are also making, the carbon paper, carbonless paper, coated paper, colored poster paper, wax paper, matchbox paper, matchbox, that is also still we are using huge amount of the matchbox, but it is coming of the new breed of your the lighter, still the matchbox that is being used in the rural area, fax based paper, cigarette tissue, tissue paper, blotting paper. These are the all the non-sized paper, tissue paper and various type of the tissue paper, even the you are the paper napkins you are using the tissue for toilet tissue paper, you are using the blotting paper. Earlier when the ink feathering was or the ball pen was not there, we are using the ink, and so at that time the importance of the blotting paper was there. Abrasive paper, absorbent kraft paper that we are making, file board, duplex board, triplex board, cardboard, file board, flexible carbon board, all these type of the different type of the board are paper board we are using. It may be duplex, means one side will be the bleach paper, that will be bleach pulp, that will be using white, and the another side that will be the your normal paper, and the triplex board, both the side will be the white paper and the inside that will be the. So, normally the gram weight, because the paper that is holding the terms of the gram weight, normally the writing paper they are 60 GSM, means the 1 square meter of the paper, that will be 60. Normally the copier paper they are 70 GSM, like that the in the board that may be around 300 to 400 GSM, that may be there. Even file board we do not have the, normally the GSM is high, but it is the single layer of the your paper is there, but in case of the duplex and triplex the 3 layers are there. So, this is the different type of the and packaging, because this has come in, they are being used in the packaging of the medicine, packaging of the soap, packaging of the tea, and everywhere we are using the, with the coming of the electronic media also we are using huge amount of the this packaging material, wallpaper, soap wrapper paper, blade wrapper paper, BD wrap paper. So, these are all the actually various quality of the paper that we are making. Another important that has been the currency note paper and the defense crop. Currency note paper, you see this still are the check paper, magnetic ink, character recognition, MICR paper, these are all the specialty papers and that is needed. And because of the, you see the now we are also thinking to go for the polymeric currency note, but I do not know what will happen, but still that is in the consideration. Another type of the paper which we are making, the insulated insulating paper, fluorescent paper, gypsum board that you are seeing that has come again in big way because of the coming of the air conditioned chambers, and so we are having the false ceiling. So, sometimes the gypsum board that we are using. And if you see that, I can say the I told you that the writing paper, newsprint, that is all that we are having the using in our daily life. Sometimes this is the wrapper for the soap, this is the greeting card we are making on the paper, this is your check paper that we are using in our daily life. Similarly, different type I was telling about the board. This is the thick board that we are using, and this is the well coated paper also we are making, and calendars and all those table calendars, all those things that we are using the paper. Magazines, if you see the in case of the magazines, lot of the changes that has come in the magazines also, because you see the coated magazine, very good quality of the paper, long durability that we are preparing in case of the, and even the all the magazines now we need, earlier used to be the slightly inferior quality, but most of the cases now you will find the good quality of the paper, coated paper, which may last for longer time that we are using. Another type of the paper, just I will show that the coated paper. This is the coated paper that we are, one side it is coated, another side is not coated, that is the, for the film purpose also we are using. Another type of the paper for making the your this greeting card envelope, and the executive bond, because slightly this is the executive bond paper that we are using, slightly better quality than the normally Xerox paper, and the cost is also big, and the weight of the paper GSM, that is also very high. So, this is all about the some of the papers which we are using in our daily life. Let us come to the raw material for the paper industry. What are the raw materials that we are consuming? Because you see the consumption of the paper is very large, and the, even if you see the, you take the case of the only newspaper, the huge amount of the paper, newsprint paper that we are using daily and throwing just after reading, and so the average life, it is not more than one day, we are keeping for one day and then it is waste. So, the huge amount of the newsprint, and even its number of pages in the newsprint because of coming of the advertisements and other things. So, the number of the pages that has increased now, and so the consumption of the raw material that has, and so the various type of the raw materials that we are using in the paper industry, that is the cellulosic material derived from the forest, agriculture residue, and the waste paper non-cellulosic. These are the raw material which are non-cellulosic raw material in the production of the paper, that we are using the huge amount of the coal, chlorine, lime, sodium hydroxide, sodium sulphide, fuel oil, talcum powder. Apart from the in the cellulosic material, some of the cotton fiber also we are using, just like Hessian cloth or the your white cloth waste that we are using for this species, especially the board paper, where the your bending strength are the just because you are after folding it, there should not be crack in the board. So, for that we are using also 1 to 2% of the cotton linter or the some of the other hosiery waste in the paper. So, that is also we are using in the making of the paper or for the specialty paper especially. And so far the availability of the raw material is concerned, India has a land mass of 3.2 million square kilometer and the 6.29 million square meter of the forest, nearly 2.5% of the world geographical area and only 1% of the total forest area, and supporting more than 60% of the world population. Now, our population is the 1.3 billion, and so the out of the 7 you can see the how much the contribution of the population is there, and so the our forest cover area against the whatever the standard figures are there, that is much less, because we are losing our greenery. Similarly, in the case of the lot of the deforestation has been done. Our social forestry, although we are investing a lot of money on the social forestry, but still the forest cover area is against the standard figure, that is much less. We are using actually the some of the raw material and the hardwood that came earlier. We used to have the softwood and the bamboo, because so far India is concerned, normally we are using the bamboo as a raw material, bamboo and the some eucalyptus, because lot of the eucalyptus plantation was there during 3 decades back, and so the huge amount of now the popular wood that is also being grown some part of our country, especially in the hill area. So, that we are using, but in case of the hardwood, because this is the mixed species from the forest we are using, the quality of the hardwood, that is the paper which are making from the hardwood, that is not so good as compared to the softwood. Fiber length is less, and in case of the softwood the fiber length is high. The quality of the strength in the paper, that is very important, whether you are making the kraft paper or you are making the maple litho or you are making the check paper. In all the cases the strength, that is very important, but just to meet the requirement of the raw material of the paper industry, hardwood utilization was more and more, and so the some of the problem that is we are facing in case of the utilization of the hardwood, that is the debarking problem, chipping problem, high density chips difficult to chip in comparison to softwood, high rejects, problem in washing due to more fines and foam, bleaching of mixed hardwood and bamboo pulp, because normally in case of the furnace which we are using as a raw material, mixed hardwood and bamboo in Indian condition that we are using, because lot of the bamboo plantation is there. So, we are using the bamboo along with the hardwood. So, the requirement of the bleaching, that is different for hardwood than the bamboo, or it may be for the softwood. So, there is a problem in bleaching of the mixed hardwood and bamboo pulp, which creates problem due to the varying bleach requirement. Shade variation, because normally the softwood is the in lighter shade and the your hardwood is in the darker shade. So, the shade variation also, because you are having the mixed raw material that we are using, problem in the evaporator, that may be there in case of the, because more fines that will be generated, because as I told in case of the your softwood more higher fiber length is there, higher percentage of hardwood affects the runnability of the machine because of the lower strength. So, we cannot go, we have tried 100% hardwood also in the paper mill, but the problem was there in the proper smooth running of the machine. Even the quality of the pulp which we are getting, that was inferior, and so the normally 100% hardwood we are not using. This is the raw material consumption that we are, you see the lot of the changes that has taken place from 1970 to 2011, and the wood 84, 39, 31, and then the global is the 57, agro residue 9, 31, 22, because there was problem. Initial stage number of the small paper mill came, and they were utilizing the agro based paper mill, and their problem was in the recovery of the chemical from the agro base, because earlier you see the concept of the small paper mill, small units or small fertilizer plant, small mini cement plant, mini plant concept came during the 70 just to promote the industrialization. The same thing happened in case of the paper industry also. Agro based residue that was being used in huge quantity, but they were not having the recovery chemicals, and the black liquor which were produced, that they are throwing. And so after sometimes the pollution load, you see if you compare the mills, large integrated mill which were using the wood, bamboo or the eucalyptus, their pollution 3 times pollution load is higher in case of the agro, because they were discharging. But now it has been mandatory for the all the agro based paper mill, either you go for the recovery of the chemicals or close it. And so the people are shifted towards the more and more waste paper. So the waste paper consumption that has increased, now it is around 47%. Many of the big paper mill, earlier the concept was the around 100 ton 200 ton capacity, that was considered okay, but now we will see the mills having the 400 500 TPD capacity, they are based on the waste paper. Cellulosic raw materials, what are the major challenges used by the major challenges raw materials, regarding raw materials used by paper industry. These are the that the major cellulosic raw materials used by paper industries: bamboo, wood, hardwood, bagasse, waste paper, agriculture residue like wheat straw, rice straw, jute stick, hemp, leaf, grasses, seaweed. These are the some of the cellulosic raw material. But major challenge which I told you that we are facing in the utilization of, although we are having a lot of the hardwood, but the softwood availability is less. So, mixed species of the hardwood we are facing lot of the problem still, and so that was the reason the bagasse, you see because bagasse, that is the waste from the sugar mill, and so that can be utilized for making of the paper. That will be discussing about the how we can integrate a paper mill with the sugar mill or the chemical plant, paper mill and the sugar plant or alcohol plant, while discussing the sugar and the fermentation industry. So, this is how the bagasse that can be made available, quality of the paper that is being made from the bagasse, that is very good. But problem is in case of the wheat straw, rice straw, where the silica, even in case of the bamboo, silica is higher than the wood, and so this was the problem faced in the Indian paper mills from very beginning. They are facing when they are going for the higher bamboo in comparison to wood, and so this is the how the black liquor quality that is varying very widely because of the utilization of these raw material. Even in case of the, if you take the case of the wheat straw and rice straw, there it is around 4% in case of the wheat straw, rice straw as is as high as 14%. So, the all the ash in the form of the silica that is going to the black liquor after the making of the pulp. So, the recovery of the chemicals that become jute stick also huge amount of the, especially some part of our country, West Bengal and Assam, that is available, that can be used for making of the paper, and to some extent we are using. Then the secondary fiber in paper making, because you see the raw material requirement that is increasing, and just it is very difficult to meet all the requirement of paper industry from the forest raw material. And similarly the deforestation, whatever the now the problem we are seeing, the climatic change and other problem, that is because of the deforestation. The our social forestry or the plantation is not proper, so definitely we are losing huge amount of the wood species, the various species in the forest, and so the recycling of this secondary fiber means the waste paper, that is very important. And the, so for the recycling is concerned, we are facing lot of the problem, the poor recycling is there. So, the increase of the use of the recycled paper is the current trend in the paper industry globally, as it is one of the survival rules for the paper industry against the dwindling fiber resource and environmental related issue, because especially in case of the agro based raw material, rice straw and wheat straw, we are facing lot of problem in the. So, from the environmental point of view also this is very important. Collection of the domestic secondary fiber and initiative as corporate and social responsibility shift in the raw material consumption pattern in India. Now, as I showed you that table where the consumption of this waste paper that is increasing now, and the waste paper we are using the, and now the whole mill about the 400 ton 500 capacity, they are based on only the waste paper. This is about the raw material consumption, small and large integrated paper mill, cellulosic raw material or the cooking chemicals, even the cooking chemicals for small and integrated paper mill, where we are having the using the bamboo and wood, that is slightly higher cooking chemicals. Sulfidity we are using the normal the kraft pulping process in case of the integrated pulp and paper mill. In case of the small paper mills, we are using the soda pulping. So, this is the requirement. Casting also we are using in case of the bleaching stage. After the chlorination, we are adding the caustic. So, caustic extraction stage that we are using the caustic, apart from the in the cooking. Other raw materials are that also we are using, because now the more and more bleach paper requirement of bleach paper, that is means the white paper that is increased, and so the for bleaching it may be chlorine. Earlier it was the chlorine, now it is the chlorine dioxide, but as we are talking about the chlorine free, and the some of the mills the oxygen requirement, then we will have to produce the oxygen. Salt cake that we are using as a makeup salt in the case of the, if you see the, this is only we are using in case of the integrated paper mill, and where we are adding salt cake as a makeup chemical, because the sodium sulphate that is reduced to sodium sulphide, and which is the because sodium sulphide that we are along with the NaOH we are using as the cooking chemical in case of the kraft pulping process. Kraftford that came, you see the Kraftford means the Swedish name, that is the in the we call it the Moorsten. So, normally the all the integrated mills using the your hardwood bamboo or the softwood, they are using the kraft pulping process because of the better. Some of the environmental concern are also there when you are using this kraft pulping. So, lime, that is also we are using huge amount, about 0.7 tons per ton of the, that is we are using for the cast sizes section for recovering the white liquor from the your green liquor. So, lime, that is the requirement in. So, earlier actually the lime that was not being cast your calcined, it was not going to the lime kiln. So, I will be discussing all those while discussing the your recovery part of the chemicals. This is all the other raw materials that we are using apart from the coal, sulfuric acid, alum, rosin. These are all material that we are using during the paper making starch for the in the sizing of the material. Hydrochloric acid, that also we are using. Furnace oil in the recovery furnace oil as well, because you are using the huge amount of the steam also during the cooking, during the paper drying. So, their requirement of the power requirement of the steam, that is, so all the units they are having their own power generation, steam generation. In some of the mills they if do not have the power generation, but at least they are having the boiler for generating the steam. And so, we are using huge amount of the coal and the furnace oil and the steam, soda ash, and then the talcum powder for loading purposes, paper, because normally you see the in case of the writing paper, writing grade paper, we are adding, because just to reduce the cost, so that the more profitability is there. So, writing more actually loading is done, so that it is around 12 to 14% loading, that may be as high as 14%. So, that is the in the form of the some of the feelers that we are using. This is about the other, if you compare the various actually the parameters, the profile of the Indian papers in the global competitiveness, your population, that is 6.2, 1 point is more than 1.2 now, and is around 7 billions you can say, mills 9,000, less than 600, number of mills. Here in the 600, that is very confusing figure, because we are having number of the handmade paper or the small units, lower capacity mill. These are all coming the total number, but actual number that may be around 300 to 400, but if you do not count the smaller paper mill, handmade papers. Capacity 379.5 kg annual per capita, that is the world figure 55, and now it is around 80, and India 8.3, that is going to be 10 to 12, 11 to 12 in the near future. Energy consumption, if you see the figure, our energy consumption figure is much higher, but now some of the new mills, they have already taken the care for reducing their energy consumption, and they have been able to reduce the energy consumption, of course, because you see the water consumption earlier used to be, in case of the paper mill, 250, 300, 400 cubic meter, nobody was bothering about the water consumption, but after coming of the water cess, now the consumption that has been reduced, but still our per ton of the paper, the consumption of the water, that is high in comparison to other developed countries, and lot of scope is there for the your recycling of the water also in the system, but some of the inherent problems are there, because especially the our raw material and their raw material in the developed countries, where they are using more softwood, less and less hardwood. So, that is slightly different actually situation is there, and so, but still you see the figure, water consumption still it is high. Now, we have come at least to 80 to 150 cubic meter per ton, but in case of the waste paper based mill, definitely the figure is around 80, but in large integrated mill the figure is around 150. So, this is how the water consumption and scope is there for the recycling of the more water in this, but one of the problem that we are facing in recycling of the water, that is the foaming, because of the more and more foam is developed if you are recycling in the system. Waste paper, the potential source of the waste paper are domestic refuse, industrial refuse, office refuse, trade refuse, the packaging material that will come in the industrial refuse, and in India around 60% of the paper industry requirement of the waste paper is made through the imports, which is on the increase year by year. You are getting huge amount of the waste paper, imported waste paper from the developing country, developed country, especially in the Southeast Asia. We are getting huge amount of the, because their electronic industry that has increased, and so the packaging they are using and their quality. One of the another advantage of the using the waste paper from the other country, because the waste paper which are generated from the softwood base, they are stronger than the what you are. Even sometimes the kraft paper, in the kraft paper made from the softwood, even the waste paper, that is at par with the hardwood paper which you are making here. So, this is the reason why the more and more waste paper from the import of the waste paper is there. This is the paper recycling, and if you see the around 20 to now it is, you can say the 20 to 25%. So, still there is a scope for the more and more recycling of the, because the only one thing is there, our collection system is not good in India, and so this is the creating problem even in recycling of the plastic also. We do not segregate the waste, just we put all the waste at one place and then we are trying to segregate. So, quality of the road sweeping waste paper which we are getting, that is much inferior than the what the people are, because in case of the paper industry, especially for the board, we are talking about the duplex board and triplex board, the liner part and the filler part, both the things are there. So, the top cover page are the, in case of the duplex, that is used to be the virgin pulp, and the liner pulp, that is from the waste paper. So, the quality of the waste paper, if the bad, then definitely it is going to affect the whole paper making or the quality of the paper. So, that is the one of the problem in recycling, and the proper recycling that has to be done in case of the, and for that the proper collection system be there, and all the paper waste that has to be segregated at the generations stage itself, not it is going to the municipal waste and then again we are segregating it. So, that is not going to solve the problem. So, that will that is a problem that has to be looked by the government just to increase how to better collection system that can be incorporated in the various towns and the cities, and so that the more and more recycling is there. This is about the other parameter, electricity, the chemical recovery, that the in European mills is high, in Indian mills also in some of the mills they are having the new recovery boiler. So, their efficiency of the recovery, but in some of the old mills the recovery of the chemical still is less, and so there is lot of scope for the going for the new recovery system, because daily we are losing, and if you take the total cost of the replacement, then I think that will be more economical to go for a new recovery furnace than the operating at the very lower recovery of the chemicals, means below 80% or around 80 to 85% recovery. So, this is the one of the bigger challenge for the Indian paper mills to increase their recovery part, and so definitely that is going to add in the overall economy of the paper industry. So, now let us discuss slightly in brief, very brief, because again I will be discussing in detail all this point, and what are the various stages involved in case of the making of the pulp and paper. First thing is the raw material preparation, that may be the debarking, chipping, that may be the part in case of the forest raw material, bamboo or hardwood, or the in case of the bamboo. So, lot of the waste, that is the biomass waste that we are getting in the forest or the from the debarking of the wood. So, that can be, because that is the reason why we are working now, the lot of the work that is going on to biomass. Cutting, that is the word we are using, not the chipping. Chipping normally we are using for the hardwood, cut or the bamboo, and chip cutting we are using for the straws, means wheat straw, rice straw, or the it may be the bamboo also. Then the finally screening of the, so that the fine dust which is generated during the chipping or the cutting, that is eliminated, or even some of the raw material preparation, and that is the washing of the raw material, that is also being done, especially in case of the bamboo and the hardwood. So, that the silica which is adhering to the hardwood or the, that is not going to the paper. So, just to avoid that, if you are having the better wash, having the proper washing of the raw material before it is being, so definitely it is going to improve the quality of the pulp. Pulping means we are having again using the different type of the pulping process depending upon the requirement, because you see normally the chemical pulping always the yield is much lower than the what you are having in case of the mechanical pulping. Chemical pulping yield may be 40 to 45%. So, we are in case of the chemical pulping, normally we are using the sulphate, that is the, we call it the kraft pulping process, where sodium sulphide, sulphate also that from we are using the sulphate process, means the sodium sulphate that we are using as a makeup chemical, and that sodium sulphate in presence of the carbon, that is due to the sodium sulphide. Soda pulping means NaOH, that we are using in case of the your agro base mill, and another is the sulphide pulping, not it is sulphate, but it is sulphide pulping, and then the semi chemical neutral semi sulphide chemical pulping. So, NSC that we are using in case of the because here yield is in between the mechanical and the chemical pulp, and so normally for the packaging material corrugated part we are using the semi chemical process. Sulphide pulping normally we are now not using in most of the mills, whether in India or other mills. In India we are not having any sulphide waste, because one unit was there and that has been also closed, and so the mostly, because here we are requirement of the free SO2 and the sulphur, because of the sulphur is important at the same time generation of the SO2, lot of the environmental problem is also there. So, normally, and one another, but one very important waste that we are generating lignosulphate here, but still that is the use of the sulphide pulping is much less. As I told you, the mechanical pulp, they are having the higher strength, higher yield, lower strength than the chemical pulp. In case of the mechanical pulp, the yield of that may be as high as 95, because most of the material which is present in the cellulosic raw material, that is retained. In case of the chemical pulping, we are delignifying, we are removing the lignin. So, that is loss in the total amount of the material which are feeding, but in case of the mechanical pulping, everything that is retained. So, stone ground wood pulping, thermomechanical pulping, refiner mechanical pulping, cold soda refine, because thermomechanical means the TMP that has come, that especially in case of the newsprint that we are using, because in case of the newsprint we are using around 70 per lion's share of the paper is from the mechanical pulping and the rest is from the your chemical. So, 70 is mechanical pulp there, and so that mechanical pulp, earlier the stone ground pulp that was being used, but now the stone ground pulping that has been replaced with the thermomechanical pulping. What are the various requirement in case of the newsprint, all those things that will be discussed separately. Then the next stage in case of the pulp and paper making is the washing and the screening, that is very important for the recovery of the, because we are using the cooking liquor for cooking of the raw material after the chipping, and so the black liquor is generated. In the white the liquor which we are using for the cooking, that we call it the white liquor, and the after the cooking it is black liquor, and that black liquor that has to be separated from the your pulp, and it will go for the recovery of the chemicals from the black liquor. So, that is very important, because the lignin that is having the dark brownish color. So, that removal of the black liquor, that is very important, otherwise the whole effluent which you are getting during the screening or the senti cleaning, where the huge amount of the water that we are using, because normally it is 1% in case of the screening, in case of the senti cleaner is less than 1% of the pulp and rest 99% of the water. One reason I can say, in case of the what is happening in case of the pulp and paper making, we are adding water at 10% removing the water. So, huge amount of the water that we are using in case of the. So, if the proper, if you want to have the proper recycling of the wastewater, proper washing of the pulp, that is very important. Again this will go in more detail what are the various type of the washer that we are using. Next step in case of the after depending upon the requirement, where our need is for the kraft paper, or the, if you see the kraft paper means the brownish paper. This file board, if you see, this is the kraft paper, no bleaching that has been, only the coloring matter that has been added. So, like that the, if you want to make the kraft paper, normally the packaging, in some of the packaging material that the kraft paper that we are using. So, the bleach paper means the white paper, just like the writing paper or the cremo paper, map litho, escutiment, all this is the white, and the so bleaching, that is the CEH means the chlorination extraction, hypochlorite 1, hypochlorite 2, then because this was the earlier sequence, there has been a lot of the changes in this sequence also, and instead of the chlorine, now we are talking about the chlorine dioxide bleaching. So, chlorine dioxide that is added in its place of the chlorine, or in addition to the chlorine, both, and at the same time now in case of the pulping also, it has been the now the we call it the oxygen delignification, because what is happening in case of the oxygen delignification, we are removing the some of the lignin before it is going to the bleach liquor, because bleaching plant means the in case of the pulp bleaching, the effluent which is generated highly toxic, just to reduce the toxicity and the color. So, prior it is going to the bleaching section, if you are having the oxygen delignification. So, the requirement of the bleaching chemical that will be less, at the same time the quality of the pulp that will be better, that will have the higher strength, because a lot of the deterioration the quality of the paper is there when you are using the hypochlorite. Other bleaching agent which you are using for bleaching, hydrogen peroxide, sodium peroxide, hydrosulfide for mechanical work. These are the some of the actually bleaching chemicals you are using for in case of the mechanical pulping, because you see the now the requirement in case of the paper that has also change, that is also changing. Even in case of the paper, if you are saying the lot of the printing is involved, and even some of the some pages are mold, actually the glaze paper type material that you are getting, and so the coated paper that you are also using in the, and the lot of the advertisement paper which you are getting in the paper, they are also the glaze paper or the coated paper. So, process technology in the manufacture of the pulp and paper. Next step after the pulping, bleaching, washing and all the stock preparation, where the beating and refining for imparting suitable properties by making the paper. Addition of the sizing chemicals, color and additives, if you want to interested for the color, for some of the actually poster papers, all those things, or even in case of the matchbox, you see the typical actually that is the, we are using the violet color for coloring that paper, and so the lot of the dyes are also involved. So, the chemicals, sizing chemicals, if you want to have the tissue paper, then we do not need the sizing, but in other cases we need the sizing, we need the coating, all those things, additives, better retention aids that we are having using. So, all the things that is mixed during the stock preparation, and finally after the stock preparation, pulp that is going to the for paper making, that is the conversion of the pulp from the stock preparation into a sheet of paper using 4D machine or the mold machine, because we are having the 2-3 type of machine, that may be 4 linear alone, or it may be combination of the 4 linear machine or the mold machine, or it may be the mold machine only, as in case of the some of the mills they are having the only mold machine, where they are making the duplex or the triplex board, or it may be the combination of the both 4 linear or the mold. Then the another important section in case of the pulp and paper making is the concentration of the spent liquor, burning, customizing and classification, and the customization of the liquor. Power generation, waste paper processing, because that is also, that has become very important part in case of the most paper making, wherever they are using the waste paper as such total, or they are using for their in the making of the duplex or the triplex board. So, sorting, screening, hydropulping and centric cleaning, these are the some of the steps involved in case of the screening. And the centric cleaning means, centric cleaning means you are having the smaller diameter cyclone, which we call it the centric cleaners there in case of the paper industry. So, for the removal of the especially the silica and other material or the uncooked material that is taking place during the centric cleaning, so that the pulp which is going to the final paper making the free from any type of the material, specks, dirt and silica, that is not there. One thing that is also, as I told you, the for bleaching purposes, still the chlorine bleaching that has been practiced, and although the some of the mills they have gone for the chlorine dioxide, but chlorine still that is being used in case of the paper mill, the chlorine in the chlorine bleaching stage, or it may be for preparation of the hypochlorite calcium hydrochloride that we are forming in case of the bleach liquor. So, this is the another unit, normally integral part of the that paper mill, or that may be the sister concern, as in some of the paper mill they are having the. So, chlorine that in some of the mills they are getting from the in the cylinder form, or in some of the mills directly to the pipeline, because just side of the mills they are having the chlorine, and the chlorine dichlorine gas that is being supplied in the pipeline. Some of the technological development that has taken place in case of the pulping, because there has been continuous development in case of the paper industry to meet the environmental standards, which is becoming more and more stringent in case of the all the industry. So, even just to increase the productivity, just to increase the yield of the paper, just to improve the quality of the paper, lot of the changes that has taken place in case of the pulping also. Extended delignification, what we call it, why we going for the extended delignification, because as much as lignin you can remove at the initial stages, less and less bleaching chemical that will be required, because loss of the pulp is more in case of the bleaching then the pulping stage. So, normally it is avoided chlorine bleaching or the hypochlorite bleaching. So, it is now the people are going for the oxygen delignification, polysulfides, anthraquinone, oxygen, super batch, rapid displacement heating, inert bath, modified continuous cooking, extended modified continuous cooking, isothermal cooking, black liquor, impregnation, isothermal cooking. These are the some of the development that is taking. Even in case of the actually if you when I was talking about the pulping, you see the pulping that came in the batch digester or the continuous digester, or in case of the, if you are having the agro based material, then you are normally you are having the spherical digester, because the it is more bulky. If you compare the bulk density of the hardwood or the bamboo, it is higher, and so in case of the normal the spherical some continuous and your pulpers are also there, but spherical digester that is preferred in case of the pulping of the agro based raw material. So, as I told you, the oxygen delignification that offers advantage over the conventional delignification process, and there is a steady growth in the worldwide production of the oxygen delignified pulp. In India also we have started using in many of the mills, but still many of the mills they are not using the oxygen bleaching, or sometimes bleaching and the delignification both the things are same, because the bleaching also we are removing the lignin, here delignification, oxygen delignification or the oxygen bleaching, both the words that we are using. These processes are now capable of producing pulp with kappa number of 30 to 50% lower than the conventional kraft cooking method without significant yield or strength loss, because normally in case of the oxygen delignification if you are doing, so final pulp and the paper which you are getting, that will have the higher strength than what we are getting with the conventional pulping and the bleaching process. These are the some of the advantage, lower demand of the bleaching chemicals, because the major portion of the lignin you are removing before it is going to the bleaching of the pulp, shorter bleaching sequences that may be required, and the effluent load is also lower than the lower BOD, COD, color toxicity, UX, high yield is also there, improved cleanness of the pulp by brightening, because one more thing that has been there in paper industry, requirement of the brightness that has changed. Earlier it used to be 70%, now we are having the 90% brightness. Even if you go for the writing paper which is best, if you are having the dull paper, low brightness paper, you will not prefer. So, this is happening, our requirement that has changed from 70 to 90% or high brightness, and so the requirement of the your bleaching chemical that can increase, and so the quality that will also actually affect the quality, but with the oxygen bleaching or the delignification the quality is high, much better. So, improved cleanness of the pulp by brightening, sipes, saving in the equipment cost, reduce energy consumption, increase in the efficiency of the brown stock wash. Actually, washing of the pulp which are that is called, we also call it the brown stock washing. Mechanical pulping, thermomechanical pulping, refiner technology, that may be because the disc refiner, all those things that has come in case of the mechanical pulping, and they have replaced the conventional stone count pulping. And so, the thermomechanical even we come because thermomechanical means softening of the chips before it is going to the refiner, or the refiner with the some of the chemical that we are reading, washing and screening. Again in case of the washing, you see the lot of the development that has taken place, because the washing proper washing, that is very important, with the minimum use of the water, so that the black liquor of the higher concentration that we are getting. So, these are the term pressure diffuser, displacement phase, combined denoting and the fine screening, high temperature screening before washing, so reverse cleaning. These are all the actually development that has taken place in case of the washing and screening. So, another advance actually, as I told in case of the mechanical pulping, now this also we are adding the chemical. Biotechnology application that has come in big way in case of the uh, paper industry also, and the form of the biopulping, biobleaching, enzymatic de-inking, enzymatic refining, during the refining stage also that we are using, and already we have discussed about the washing and screening, because the wash screening part, that is also very important in case of the making of the pulp. So, pulp and paper market forces are driving the development of the pulp and bleaching technology, because most of the development now you are finding that is uh, from the environmental point of view. From now we are talking about the chlorine free paper in the market, environment eco friendly paper. So, if you want to go for the international market, definitely it should be the more, we are talking the greener paper, where the less and less even the chlorine, why the, which is the, while discussing the pulping and bleaching we will be discussing why the, how the various actually the sequences of the bleaching that has changed. So, there have been unprecedented change in the bleaching technology for reducing the toxicity and at the same time improving the quality of the bleach pulp. So, these are the some of the actually the advances, because dioxin that is produced during the, in case of the pulp and paper making, lot of concern that has been shown because of the presence of the dioxin in the effluent of the pulp and paper. Now, the pulp are classified as the, it may be chlorine free, chlorine chemical free, molecular chlorine free, non-chlorine compound, active chlorine free, absolutely chlorine free, almost chlorine free, elemental chlorine free, modified, totally chlorine free. So, these are the some of the various sequences, various type of bleaching that has been incorporated in various methods. Fiber modification, that is also the some of the advancement, enhancing the opacity of the fiber through pigment particles, better fiber loading, pressurized sensitive adhesives, alkaline sizes. Now, the people are talking about the sizing, I will be discussing while discussing the paper making, the acid sizing to alkaline sizing, why the people are shifting. So, now we are going for the alkaline sizing also, paper machine, paper making, because now what we are doing, we are making on the machine that paper. So, the speed of the machine with the sophisticated instrumentation now we are having earlier it used to be 200 capacity that was considered okay, 200, 400, 5, we are having the machine 1000 meter per minute that is running. The high speed machine that we are using with the much more sophisticated instrumentation control, because you see the continuous running of the paper, there should not be breakage, transfer of the paper from wire part to or the mold part to the press part and to the drying part, close hood and the insulation of the dry cylinder end, because we are using the steam for final drying of the paper, installation of the thinning press. These are the some of the development that has taken place in case of the paper industry. Evaporation recovery also the advancement that has taken place, agro-based require more energy for recover the chemicals because of the high silica content. In case of the, you cannot go in the conventional evaporation beyond 30-35% black liquor, where in case of the bamboo base and the hardwood base we can go to around 45% of the concentration of the black liquor. Even in case of the other part of the world where they are using only hard softwood, their black liquor concentration is slightly higher than what we are, because in case of the bamboo also, which is the major raw material in Indian paper industry, the silica content is high, and so that silica created problem if you are going for higher concentration. So, for the recovery, the higher silica content, that is especially in case of the agrobase. Evaporation, now the most of the mills they have added in along with the 5 to 6 effect long tube evaporator, they have gone for the film evaporator for further actually the concentrating black liquor, because the concentrated black liquor that is being fired in the recovery furnace, and so the amount of the additional fuel which will be required, that will be higher. First it will be drying part and then the other reaction which will take place in case of recovery. So, so these are the some of the actually the ultra filtration, also nano filtration. This is the people now talking about the membrane process for concentrating the black liquor, and so that the concentrated black liquor is going. People are also talking about the recovery part, because you see the modern recovery boiler, they are having the higher actually the concentration around 85%. Normally we are feeding around 60-65%, but modern recovery boiler they can go for the 85% with the much more water removal at the initial stage. So, this is the how the development that is recovery system with the agro basement, because there has been changes in the, because that has been made mandatory in case of the agro based mill to go for the recovery. Earlier it was again problem because the high silica content. So, now they have gone for the recovery of the chemicals from the agro based mill also. These are the some of the biotechnology application already I discussed earlier: biopulping, biobleaching, enzymatic de-inking and enzymatic refining. So, all these actually the that has been tested, but still so for the if you go for the industrial scale, so how much improvement is there? There are so many varying parameters are there, but it has been actually found very suitable if you are going for the biopulping or biobleaching, so that the chlorine, if you want to go for chlorine, this is the one of the solution that you can go for the biodegradation or biobleaching. In the enzymatic de-inking, why it is very important, especially for the your recycling of the waste paper. These are the some of the technological turning point in Indian paper industry, that is the improved resource planning, better plantation technique, because our social forestry is poor, good harvest management. So, in the technological turning point in the Indian paper industry, some of the things we have already discussed: the conservation of the natural resources, effective waste utilization, recycling, improved cleaning, efficiency, better environmental condition, eliminating the toxicity, improved product yield, odorless mill, better fiber properties and improved runnability. So, some of the challenge in the paper industry, because as I told you earlier also, there has been a lot of the consumption of the paper that is increasing. So, how to meet that requirement, that is one of the big challenges that you can go through the slide, the consumption which was there in 2004 and the future requirement. So, these are the some of the shortcomings which we are having, that is the poor infrastructure, too many administrative hurdles, poor to non-existent commitment, high cost of the normal method of financing. These are the problems, rising cost of the inputs, uneconomic size and obsolete technology, many old mills still they are using. So, these are of the some of the high cost of the production, poor productivity, poor instrumentation, low availability of the forest raw material. So, these are the major challenges in case of the pulp and paper industry. In the next lecture, we will be discussing about the in more detail about the pulping and bleaching. What are the various methods, some of the things that might be, just I have given the summary, but process steps involved in case of the pulping and bleaching for the conventional pulp, for the newsprint, for the your other papers, that will be discussing in detail.